Good morning, Year 4. This is our last Green Ship Book Week lesson together. Today we're going to finish the story and then we're going to have a go at doing some story maps and thinking about how the characters felt at different points in the story. And some of you might make a little book with your own awesome Green Ship ideas for adventures. Okay, so they were in this big crazy storm, weren't they? Let's see what happens. At some point, we must have fallen asleep, because when we awoke, we were on the floor of the wheelhouse and early morning sunlight was shining on us. Mrs. Treadgar was still at the wheel. She came through, she said. She came through. Then she turned and looked at us and said, "Well done, crew. The captain would have been proud of you." There's Mrs. Treadgar, look, telling the children that the captain would have been proud of them. I wonder who the captain is. I wonder if he had a real ship. You can see the early morning sunlight coming through the window, can't you? And then Mrs. Treadgar walked out across the grass and with a long trail of ivy tied up the battered ship as if she had come into port at last. There's a long string of ivy tying it up to this old urn flower pot. Do you remember what they imagined that was earlier in the story? Oh dear, one of the masts is broken in the wind, look. We still go back to see Mrs. Treadgar every year. The boatswain says that he's getting too stiff to climb up and trim the masts and the funnels, and that Mrs. Treadgar doesn't seem to mind. There they are with the boatswain. It is looking quite overgrown, isn't it? I wonder why Mrs. Treadgar doesn't seem to mind that the ship is overgrown. Maybe it has something to do with all the adventures that she went on with the children. And so gradually, year by year, the trees are growing back into their old shape. They are becoming ordinary trees, and soon there will no longer be any way at all of knowing that they were once the green ship. Just if you look carefully, you can just see the old cabin there. You can just about see the shape of the green ship, can't you, with the funnels and the masts. They really are looking like proper trees now. You spot Alice and her brother. They look a bit more like teenagers now, don't they? The end. You can see them there, look, looking out from the mast of the ship. So I just want to ask you, Year 4, how do you think Alice and her brother felt as they saw the ship sort of disappearing as the trees and the bushes regenerated? I wonder if they felt that it was something really special that's now lost, and they were really sad and really regretful of that. Or maybe this sort of regeneration of nature could be seen as something positive. You know, they had all these brilliant adventures with Mrs. Treadgar, and Mrs. Treadgar seemed quite content, doesn't she, to let the green ship grow over. So maybe it's something positive, and it's lovely that they can just go back and remember those times. I wonder if you could argue both sides of that. Maybe we could discuss it in the Zoom later. Okay, so now we've finished and really enjoyed the green ship, we're going to have a go at making a story map, a bit like this one, with the different really important and really powerful parts of the story mapped out, and then we're going to think about how the different characters felt in the different points of the story, we're going to try and write some emotion words on our story map. So first of all, we're going to have a go at doing a story mountain. Do you remember what we did, like you did with Mrs. Brooman last week, I think? So we need to think about the opening, the building up of the story, the problem, the resolution, and then the ending in the different points of the story. So I'm going to write what I think for these things, but you might have different ideas, and that's absolutely fine. So I think the opening, it was them sort of creeping into the forest, but I think the real powerful bit of the opening was them discovering the ship. So I'm going to write discovering the green ship. And then the building of the story, well, when they met Mrs. Treadgar and the bosun, that was quite a big building moment, wasn't it? Because it was a bit of a surprise and they weren't sure what was going to happen. So we can put meet Mrs. Treadgar and the bosun. And I think also the adventures that they went on, that was all part of the story building, wasn't it? So we can put that there as well. Adventures. Now the problem. What was the problem in the story? What was the real crux of it? Yeah, I think it was the storm. The storm. That was when we weren't really sure what was going to happen, was it? And then the resolution of that, well, they sort of came through the storm, didn't they? And Mrs. Treadgar was really proud of them. And they had the lovely morning light waking them up in the cabin in the morning. So let's have coming through the storm. And then the ending, yeah, so the green ship regenerated and returned to nature, didn't it? So we could have the regrowth of the green ship. Cool. So now we've got our story mountain all set out. We need to keep this, so don't lose it. Grab a piece of paper and we're going to fold it up to make 6 parts to write on our story map. So find yourselves a piece of paper and then we're going to fold it in half. Oh, good job we've been learning all about fractions. That's actually really going to help us here. So we're folding it in half. We're going to hold it landscape and do it that way. And then we're going to fold it into thirds, so into 3 parts. So if you take one end and fold it over, and then take another side and fold it over. Doesn't matter if it's not perfect. Mine isn't, look. And then we can alter it a little bit. There we go. That's 1/3. Oh. And then we'll open it up. There we go. And we've got 6 sections. Hey, one of these is 1/6, look. So in each 6th, we're going to draw a part from our story mountain. And we know from our story mountain that the first bit on our story map is discovering the green ship. So let's go to that part of the story and think about what we might draw on our story map. So we've got the green ship itself. We've got maybe the children looking out, discovering the green ship. And I actually really like this sort of image here that Quentin Blake has done with the green ship through the curtain, or through the green curtain. So on my story map, I know it's in pencils, you can't super see it, but I've drawn a mixture of both. I've got the children looking out, and then the green ship through that opening in the undergrowth. And I've written a title there, Discovering the Green Ship. Okay, so you're going to go through each different part from our story mountain. Okay, So discovering the green ship, meet Mrs. Treadgar, the adventures, the storm, coming through the storm, and the regrowth. And you're going to put them with a picture in each of these 6 sections. Okay, and then we are going to think about how the characters might have felt during that part of the story. So how do you think Alice and her brother might have felt when they were discovering the green ship? I think they were probably excited. Maybe they were a bit surprised. You wouldn't necessarily expect to see a ship made out of trees, would you? And maybe we could look back at the story and think about some of the language Quentin Blake uses. So here he says, they saw something absolutely astonishing. And we thought astonishing was a really good word, didn't we? So maybe they were astonished. And we could put that in there. Maybe they were a little bit confused. And curious. Alice definitely wanted to go and see the ship, didn't she? She was the one who said to go and explore it. Maybe they felt a bit lost. They didn't really know where they were. Okay, so there's the first one. And you can magpie ideas off of mine, or you might want to do yours in a completely different way. And what you can do then is maybe have a look at Quentin Blake's illustrations and see if you could maybe even copy some of his style, the way that he uses the pen strokes, the way that he doesn't sort of have these perfect block colours, does he? It's like lots of different colours all together. So you might be able to get some inspiration from his illustrations. And when it's all done, it might look a little bit like this one. So I have coloured mine in. I've left this one in black and white. If you want to leave yours in black and white, that's fine too. But in each part, I've thought about all the different characters in that part of the story and how they might feel. So for example, when we met Mrs. Treadgar and the bosun, maybe the children were quite startled, a bit worried, a bit nervous. But then I also thought about how Mrs. Treadgar and the bosun might feel. So maybe they were a bit cross or alarmed or a bit confused. Or maybe Mrs. Treadgar was quite pleased to have the children discovering the ship and that she might share it with them because she got quite excited, didn't she? And she was really keen to go on lots of adventures with them. So you can pause the video here and magpie any ideas off of mine if you would like. And don't forget to go back to the book for inspiration. Please keep hold of your story maps and bring them into school next week and we can put them up on display in the book corner. Year 4, you guys have got some awesome ideas for some green ship adventures. So, I thought that you might like to make a little book, a little bit like this one. Do you remember you've made them before? To put your own green ship ideas in. I've put a link in the description to a tutorial of how to make a little book like this if you're not sure. And maybe you could have a go at making your own. Maybe you have some really cool ideas for some adventures. Maybe you would like to add in some different characters. Maybe try and think about the story mountain of your story and what might happen and how the story might evolve. I'm really excited to see what you create.